Good morning, everyone. I'm Stephen Rosenbaum. I'm the managing director of the NYC Media Lab. And as some of you know, we have a weekly newsletter data download that is a pretty good read, and we're experimenting with reading it to you, telling you a little bit about what's in the newsletter. You can, of course, always subscribe to it. And here it is on the screen. You can also get it on Medium. Here, let me just put up the subscribe button. Come on, there we go. So today I want to talk a little bit about some things in the newsletter, share with you some things we read, and we try in the newsletter every week to be an interesting mix of things you haven't seen before, things that are bubbling under, some things that are troubling, some things that are inspirational. Not so heavy that you want to just go slit your wrists, but also not so lighthearted and optimistic that you feel like we're not dealing with the issues in the universe. So with that, I want to start by just telling a little bit of a story. So this morning, I was out in Central Park. And as journalists and writers do, I eavesdrop. You know, not for personal stuff, not looking for your PIN number, just trying to kind of imbibe the zeitgeist of the moment. And you know, when you sit on a park bench, you get little snippets of conversations as people walk by you. Sometimes they're with friends walking down the promenade and you hear just little bits. Other times they're on their phone. And I just want to share with you what I learned this morning. It was a mix of logistics, real estate, school planning, vacation plans, work issues, health matters, nothing shocking to me. And what I took away from my little observational eavesdropping was people are going about living their life or trying to live their life in masks, by the way, in New York, with gloves on often, but you know, trying to kind of keep things moving forward. Now, that much can't be said of chunks of the internet. And that's part of what's in the newsletter this morning. There's an article in The Verge, which is pretty dramatic and shares some research that was done by the Daily Beast about online propaganda campaigns and AI-generated headshots. And I'm not going to lie. When I get for example, LinkedIn request, if it doesn't have a headshot, my immediate reaction is, this is bullshit, person isn't real. On the other hand, if it has a friendly, warm, inviting, smiley face, you know, don't get me wrong, I don't just click and accept the request. I still have to know who you are. Hopefully we met at some point in person. We have people in common. I have a whole checklist of things I go through, and 97% of the LinkedIn requests I click no on. And by the way, a clue to those of you who are trying to reach me, if you don't take the time to write a note in addition to the request, if you don't say, hey, I'm interested in your work about this, or we need to have this person in common, or I have a project I want to share with, you know, if you're literally just randomly looking for LinkedIn, you know, when people say, you seem like an interesting person and I'd like to expand my network, that is the surest way to get a no out of me. Anyway, but this article in The Verge, I found kind of deeply troubling because it was kind of a little bit of a sign of where things are going. That the line between real people and fake people is getting blurrier quickly thanks to AI. And you know, it used to be you'd go to a conference, you'd meet people, and then after you met them, you'd either trade business cards or electronic information, and from there you would connect with them. But in the new world that's likely to be for the next, I don't know, let's say 6 months at least, everything is going to be on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever you use, but it's unlikely you're going to meet people, new people, in person. So I think this article is a good warning shot across the bow, and hopefully generate some interesting conversation. Which reminds me, we are live, so feel free to jump into the conversation, ask questions, comment, add other links. You can either do that through Facebook or through YouTube, and we're adding a bunch of other platforms as we experiment with sharing the newsletter live. All right, so the next article is a strangely, wonderfully optimistic one by Kyle Pope from Columbia Journalism Review. And the headline is, somewhat surprisingly, a time of opportunity. And Kyle, and this entire publication, this entire monthly publication from CJR, really digs into how journalism has got to where it is and what we can do to kind of build new positive behaviors rather than simply looking in the rearview mirror. And basically, I'll just read you a little bit of it. This is the middle of his article. It says, the coronavirus pandemic laid bare the deficiencies of America's public health system, the most expensive on earth. Deep inequities in infection and survival, depending on your address and your income and your race. Two-tiered workforces where clocking in from home to avoid the virus was not available for 2/3 of the country. And he really talks about the opportunity for journalism to engage these problems in some very different ways, particularly political reporting. I highly recommend this. It's in the newsletter. If you haven't, I'm going to put up, here's our subscription link. It's nycmedialab.org/newsletters. We have 3. We have our Innovation Monitor newsletter, which is weekly. We have Data Download, which is weekly. And we have a monthly newsletter from the organization. I would highly recommend signing up for all 3 of them because they're awesome. All right, onward, a couple of other articles. The Markup has a really good article about the anatomy of a fake news headline. And I won't get into it because you should sign up and read it. Poynter has a piece about free public data, the lifeblood of press freedom, which is also important and interesting and not simple. Wired has a piece, which I thought I had pulled up here. Here, hold on one second. Where's the Wired piece? Down in the newsletter. Here it is. Well, we'll jump ahead because the one that I really want to actually talk about is 3D printed food. This is a FT video, and this is 3D printed alternative meat food, and this is one of those videos that's it's even tempered, it's thoughtful, it's detail oriented, it takes you to a place you haven't been before. I really liked it, and you know, without getting into the politics of meat versus no meat, it's pretty clear that one of the things we have to think about is how we feed the population. And I really, you know, I would like to have a 3D food printer in my kitchen. I would. If anyone knows of one that's in beta that they want to have me beta test, right here, would love to do that. All right, so FT 3D printed food and 3D printed meat in particular, so you should watch that, and the link is also in the newsletter. And then what we're listening to. This is a podcast that I really like. I really enjoy hearing. This is our friend Baratunde Thurston's podcast, We're Having a Moment. And I was trying to think of how to describe to people why I like him so much. And the best answer I can give you is that he's both funny and quite serious. And he does it, I don't know if you've seen his TED Talk, or I guess there have been a couple of them, but Baratunde, I mean, he's very self-effacing. He tells his own story really well. He doesn't punch you in the face with issues, which some days I just feel a little overwhelmed. But that being said, he's incredibly thoughtful. So if you're looking for a new podcast to subscribe to, highly recommend We're Having a Moment. And that is really what we have in the newsletter this week. If you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. If you're already a subscriber, please share it with your friends, because we always like getting more subscribers. And as always, we're looking for feedback, thoughts, suggestions, articles that we should share, conversations that we should facilitate. We're starting to plan our big fall summit. Had our first planning meeting last week, and we'll be looking to you to help give us ideas and suggestions about the summit and what should be in the summit. For those of you who know, it is our big kind of tentpole event of the fall, and there are going to be some surprises this year. It's going to be different, and I think, dare I say, maybe better, certainly different. And we're thinking about different ways to connect people and explore the world we're in and the world that we're leading toward. So with that, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Saturday. Read the newsletter. Send me emails. I'm Steve at Magnify Media on Twitter, so you can always tweet me, or Steve at magnifymedia.com, or Steve at NYC Media Lab. With that, have a great week. See you next week.